What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. The Giants are not practicing today, but they did practice yesterday. We weren't able to get an episode up, so today we do want to react to what was considered to be a very sloppy, ugly practice from the New York Giants on Tuesday morning. The offense in particular had a very sloppy day. Brian Daboll was screaming at them, cursing them out. Apparently the reporters could hear what he was saying from 80 yards away on the sideline. That's how angry and how vicious Brian Daboll got when berating the offense, again, after a very poor performance. So we want to unpack that, talk about what went wrong for the Giants in yesterday's practice. Daniel Jones reportedly struggled pretty badly, so did a few of the other members of the offense. And in general, though, it did look like the defense had a really good practice, and there are silver linings and positive takeaways from yesterday's sloppy training camp day. So we just kind of want to unpack all of that, kind of go into a little bit of the Daniel Jones, Drew Lock conversation, since there's some buzz from the reporters that maybe Drew Lock could start to get some first team reps. So we want to react to that, discuss whether or not we think that's a good idea, and obviously react to how great the defense has been since the pads have come on, because the pass rushers have been getting home. Brian Burns, yes, he had that foot injury. It was nothing. He returned to practice, and he was a menace yesterday. Almost had an interception. Kayvon Thibodeau as well, getting in the backfield and generating a lot of pressure. And then a few defensive backs, young, underrated guys, really standing out. So a lot to unpack, some negatives, but a lot of positives, and we will continue to have that positive tone as we get excited for the New York Giants upcoming season. And reminder, guys, we are like 10 days away from the start of the Giants preseason. Very close, right around the corner. So exciting times here. Very happy to unpack all of it. But before we do, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And I'll let you pick whichever topic you want to tackle first from yesterday's training camp practice.
Well, let's start with a positive. Rookie third-round pick, Drew Phillips. Now, if you guys watched the finale of the Hard Knocks last night, you got a good insight into the Giants trying to get a CB2 in the second round. They were looking at Lassiter, they were looking at Kool-Aid McKinstry, and they couldn't get either of them. So they end up with the top safety on their board, and the top safety in the draft, Tyler Nubin, who has a calf injury right now, not practicing, expected to return tomorrow, I believe. But with that being the case, not getting a CB2, they had to pivot, get their top safety. And in the third round, they get Drew Phillips out of Kentucky, who you look at his numbers, and they're 435 yards allowed last year, 3 touchdowns, 4 pass breakups. Not the best, but you can't look at it and look at numbers without context sometimes. There were some scheme-related issues with Kentucky's defense, and they were playing a specific game, and the Giants really saw him as a nickel, and he was playing on the outside for Kentucky. So now they're pushing him into the interior, and if you watched, you got a little bit of an inkling of his personality, his character. Really, really good guy. Like, just a great young guy. Checked all the boxes for the Giants in terms of character. He has really good physical features as well. He's got a lot of talent, and this kid is making an impact early in camp. He had a couple of really nice pass breakups yesterday, and Drew Phillips is the starting nickel for this team. They have already committed to him. Like, he is going to start there. So, looking at other guys at CB2, Cordell Flott, Nick McLeod competing on the boundary, but Drew Phillips, Darnay Holmes, those guys are in the slot. They waived Aaron Robinson with a injury designation yesterday as well, so he's gone after not making an appearance, I think, since 2022. It's been a minute. So finally, he's gone, and they'll replace his roster spot nonetheless. But I like Drew Phillips a lot. He's feisty. He's really intelligent. He has solid vision. I think he's going to be a nice player for this Giants team for a very long time. Get your take on that. Start off this episode with a positive before we dive into some of the, not so exciting stuff on the offensive side. They really sucked yesterday by most accounts.
Yeah, it sounds like all the reporters, fans in attendance, they didn't think that the offense looked good for even a second yesterday. A lot of mishaps. But I will speak to what you said about Andrew Phillips and just say that I am really excited about this kid. When he was selected in the third round, it was the second defensive back that the Giants had taken in a row. And initially, I was like, okay, a nickel cornerback, kind of a project here. How thrilled can I be about this selection? But then you learn a little bit more about Phillips, and you learn about the traits that he's bringing to the locker room, the leadership qualities that he has, and the dedication and motivation to grind and get better and grow as a young player. He's exciting. I really like Phillips, and everything that we've seen from him at training camp tells you that the Giants probably got an instant impact starter at that rookie or at that slot cornerback position in Phillips. So a lot of excitement there. I saw a clip of him making a really nice pass breakup against Wan'Dale Robinson. Broke quickly, broke up a pass down in the flat on a quick out route from Robinson. It was a nice play, and we've seen quite a few of those from Andrew Phillips. So I definitely think he's going to be a starter. And one of the exact quotes that I heard in that Hard Knocks episode, Alex, that I was excited about was Joe Schoen asked the defensive staff, will he be a 3-down nickel cornerback? Meaning, will he play all 3 downs in the nickel? Can he start? Can he play starting level reps? Because obviously, traditionally in NFL defense, a lot of them don't use nickel as their base. A lot of them do. Sounds like that revealed to me the Giants plan on having a base nickel formation, which I think is exciting for what we might see from the defense this year, just to kind of give us a better idea. And also the fact that they wanted to draft someone in the 3rd round that will start for them and be a full-time starter, not a rotational pass rusher, not a rotational nickel cornerback, but a guy who's on the field for damn near 1,000 snaps. And they feel like they got that in the 3rd round out of Andrew Phillips. Well, that's pretty exciting, because if they did get that in the 3rd round, that's a great pick. Once you get into round 3, you start to find developmental pieces. But they feel like they got a guy who could probably contribute 800 plus snaps this season, and that's a really great thing. And so far, he's looked like the real deal at training camp. So excited about Andrew Phillips. Also excited about Nick McLeod, who has continued to stand out. Everybody on this channel who views this channel knows I'm a big Nick McLeod fan. I've been rooting for him, gunning for him since the end of last season. Again, not that I have Pro Bowl or All-Pro expectations for him, but I think in this thin secondary, he does deserve the starting CB2 job, and I think he can do a decent job at that. So I am excited that he's continuing to stand out. Had a pass breakup yesterday on Daniel Jones. I think he had an interception at some point in the last couple days as well. So McLeod continues to get me excited. But let's flip over, Alex. Let's have this discussion about the offense. Again, Brian Daboll was livid. He was screaming at everybody. In particular, Daniel Jones caught a lot of the flack from onlooking fans and reporters yesterday. Connor Hughes, in particular, of SNY, wrote a piece kind of detailing all of the mishaps that Jones had. He talked about frequent underthrows. He talked about passes that were completed but inaccurate, causing the receivers to slow down and not catch it in stride, sacrificing yards after the catch opportunity. And he went 5 of 14 passing, I believe was the stat line, so 9 incompletions, didn't complete anything further than 10 yards downfield. It sounded like a tough day for Daniel Jones. And here's my take on it, and it's really not a hot take. It is just practice. He is just coming off of an ACL tear, so you do have to give him time to knock off the rust. I am not overly concerned by this one practice performance. Yes, it's his worst one so far. He's had his inconsistencies throughout camp, but I do still think we need to give Daniel Jones a little bit more time before we start to say, okay, he's not it. He can't be the starter of the season. But at the same time, Drew Lock does need to start taking reps with the starters for multiple reasons. It's not necessarily because Daniel Jones hasn't played well in those starting reps. A lot of it has to do with the fact that Drew Lock has played very well in those second-team reps, and you should reward him, in my opinion. I think Brian Daboll should reward him with some playing time with the ones. But the other big component here is Drew Lock needs to have some sort of chemistry with the starters just in case Daniel Jones gets injured. It has nothing to do with Daniel Jones' performance at training camp. So don't go into the comment sections and say I'm overreacting to one bad day of camp. My take on this has nothing to do with how he's played in camp so far and has everything to do with the fact that Jones has an extensive injury history. He's missed time due to injuries in all but one season of his career. 2 of those injuries have been season-ending, and with that injury clause in Daniel Jones' contract looming large, you need to be prepared to shove Drew Lock into the lineup at a moment's notice. Therefore, the Giants should be wise to give him starting reps in practice so that he has some chemistry already developed with Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and these other guys before they have to put him in the starting lineup if they ever do. And again, knock on wood, because I hope they don't. I hope Daniel Jones goes out there and throws 40 touchdowns this year and is the MVP. Obviously, I want to see that happen because I'm a Giants fan, but you do have to prepare for the worst. You hope for the best, you prepare for the worst, and in doing so, Drew Lock needs to have some chemistry built in with the starting lineup just in case he has to see starting playing time. So, Alex, that's my take on it. I know yours is probably pretty similar, but how are you feeling? What's your reaction to Daniel Jones struggling at Tuesday's practice? And what's your take on whether or not Drew Lock should be getting first-team reps?
I think that you hit it on the head. There's nothing to do with Daniel Jones not playing well. It's everything to do with preparing for a possible injury down the stretch. Just giving Drew Lock some time to develop chemistry with these, starters. At the end of the day, splitting those reps because Daniel Jones has a lengthy and checkered health history. They need to prepare. If they want to win football games, they cannot throw Drew Lock into a situation where he's going up and trying to throw the ball with zero chemistry to his new teammates in Slayton and Wandale and Hodgins and, Neighbors and Theo Johnson. And he has to have some sort of chemistry and some sort of timing with these guys. He needs those reps just to get acclimated and be able to step in if need be. It could be for a variety of reasons. Health, lack of performance from DJ, who knows? But the throws there, so I'll say this about Daniel Jones. It was inconsistent. They won 8, I think to finish practice, they had 8 plays. One of them went for positive yardage. Look, it's unacceptable from a perspective of it's practice. He was missing guys that were wide open. There were guys, I saw a video of Slayton in the flat, literally with nobody within 10 yards of him, and the pass was at his feet. You know what I mean? Like, it was behind him and at his feet. You can't, look, dude, you're making $40 million. You got to hit these easy throws. I know it's practice. I know it doesn't matter, but we've seen him make those mistakes in games. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is a trend. It's not something that's like, oh, wow, like it's in practice. It hasn't happened before. We've seen this happen during regular season action too. So it needs to be consistent. So what you do in practice oftentimes transitions and translates to games. So if you're not making the throws in practice, why the hell are you going to make it when you can actually get hit, when you're actually going up against guys who are trying to kill you? It only gets more difficult. You know what I mean? It only gets harder when you step into a live action scenario where guys are trying to hit you and put you on the floor. So he needs to be making these easy throws in practice, because if he's not making them now with no pressure, how is he going to make them with pressure in his face? So, that's kind of my perspective. But again, like you said, shaking off the rust, coming off an ACL tear, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for now until we get into preseason and really start to see like what he's doing in terms of like getting better. He seems to be running just fine. He's not afraid to take off. So look, we can't afford to have Daniel Jones picking up half his production on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, that's not this offense. This offense can't sustain him running around aimlessly, like not throwing the ball well. You know what I mean? At that point, you have to move on, because then he becomes an injury liability. And if he gets hurt and a significant injury at that and fails his postseason medicals, we owe him his entire salary next year. So the Giants need to operate very cautiously and very carefully with how they go about utilizing him and how he's playing. Of course, the jury's still out. Plenty of time left to go. We're giving him the benefit of the doubt, as we said many times. But we need to see more. Need to see more consistency. One guy I think who has been looking a lot better is Jalen Hyatt. He's been getting open. His route running looks a lot crisper, looks a lot smoother. I'm really impressed from what I've seen from him. The Giants seemingly love Theo Johnson. He's going to be a big part of this offense. What are your thoughts right now about Hyatt, what you've seen from him, the growth that you've witnessed? I think that he's going to take a big step forward. He's inevitably going to take over Darius Slayton's role long term, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a really good chance that happens. And I know that you remember last offseason when we were going through our pre-draft process on a lot of those guys. Jalen Hyatt caught our eye pretty early on because of his explosive ability. I didn't feel like he was a first-round prospect, but a lot of people did. I said that he's probably a second, third-round guy. Giants ended up trading up for him in the middle of the third round. I felt like that was a steal, an excellent value, because at the very worst, he's a late second, early third guy. They got him mid-third round, and there were a lot of analysts who pegged him as a first-round draft pick. He went to the Giants in a lot of mock drafts at the 20-something overall pick in that offseason. So, of course, with Jalen Hyatt, like I said, you got to give a player like that time to develop, because the offense that he was playing in at Tennessee is so vastly different from any offense that he was going to get plugged into at the NFL level. He never faced press coverage. He never really was asked to play on the outside. Now here in the NFL, the way that deep threats work like that, you kind of need him to play on the outside. You need him to face press coverage, and you need to see how he combats it. One of the things that I've seen in a lot of these training camp clips so far, Alex, and it's the reason that I agree with you, I think the breakout is coming for Hyatt. He's been going up against a lot of press coverage, and he's been winning a lot of those reps. I saw one where he had a really nice release off the line of scrimmage. I think it was against McLeod. He burned McLeod, and it might not have been McLeod. He burned the cornerback deep, got wide open, made the catch during individual drills. But again, it's so notable that it was against press coverage, and the cornerback couldn't get a hand on him. That's a brand new element to Hyatt's game that was absent during his rookie year, and is one of the reasons why he wasn't as productive as he hoped he would be last season. So yeah, I think that Hyatt's been turning heads at camp. I think he's looked very impressive, and if he can just continue to do this, add more to his skill set, continue to build on the skills that he has, we know that the potential is there. Like at Tennessee, he looked like a clone of Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson was never number one wide receiver in the NFL, but he was a damn good number two and arguably the best deep threat in the league. Hyatt maybe won't reach that potential, but if he can reach a fraction of it, he can be a really good player for the New York Giants. Be a great deep threat, score some touchdowns on explosive plays, keep the offense moving downfield with some big chunk yardage. I see all of that potential for Jalin Hyatt and think that he is a really exciting player. So impressed with what I've seen from him during camp and also impressed with Theo Johnson so far. Like you said, the Giants love Theo Johnson. All of the Hard Knocks clips that we've seen where they've discussed Theo Johnson, they say he has straight dog. They keep calling him a dog. They called Malik Neighbors a dog. So now you got two dogs and they're woofing all throughout practice. The guys are barking and it is exciting to see. I'm loving what Theo Johnson is doing on the field. He's made a lot of nice plays and I just love the athleticism that he brings to that tight end position because I think it will allow the Giants to run a lot of the same concepts that they wanted to last year with Darren Waller. Again, not to the same extent. Darren Waller, a former Pro Bowler, is a very skilled player. But with Theo Johnson being able to emulate some of that playing style, I think that the Giants can keep some of the plays that they liked from last season and just plug Theo Johnson in there and see how he takes it and how he performs. So that's also an exciting takeaway. But Alex, before we wrap, I do want to get your take on this pass rush because it's looked good. Now, again, it's kind of the chicken or the egg argument. Is this because the offensive line is so bad? Is this because the defensive line is so good? We don't really know. The pads finally came on, so we're starting to get a good sense of it, but probably need to wait for the preseason before we determine which one is the better or which one is the cause of all of this mass hysteria. But right now, I am getting excited. Just seeing Brian Burns get after the quarterback, seeing how often Kayvon Thibodeau has been in the backfield has been very encouraging to me because for him last year, consistency was the issue. Well, he's consistently been in the backfield throughout training camp. So really excited about the pass rush. How are you feeling?
I mean, look, this is what we expected. This pass rush has the upside to be top 5 in the league. They should be beating the brakes off of offensive lines like this. Andrew Thomas has looked fantastic as we expected, but they still are missing John Michael Schmitz. So, we have to keep that in mind. They've been rotating like Aaron Stinney in there and Runyon and, Jermaine Illuminor. Obviously, Evan Neal still out. So, there's a lot of mix and match. They're trying to get different alignments, test different guys out here. So I'm not surprised they're kind of getting waxed at this point. But at this rate, like this is what you have to prepare for. You know what I mean? Like if you're the Giants and you have a bad offensive line and you have new pieces in, the best way to develop chemistry is to go up against a top 5 unit. Like this is how you get better because you go up against a 15th unit in the NFL, the 20th or the 25th, you're going to dominate them. You know what I mean? Like this is how average offensive line should be able to stand their ground against average pass rushes. And most teams, half the league is going to be average to below average, right? So if the Giants are going up against a top 5 unit every day in practice and they're at least surviving, and that's all we hope for at this point, survive, we know they can survive against better units or worse units, in the league, the other, whatever 25 teams there is or whatever it might be. So, that's kind of my mindset. If you can hold your own against Kayvon, Brian Burns, and Dexter Lawrence, you're going to be fine when regular season rolls around. Again, they're not doing so well right now, but they signed Greg Van Roten. We're going to record an episode right after this, breaking that deal down for you and our interest in him. So obviously that's really, really good. So at the moment, I do feel confident that this team is going to take steps in the right direction. But again, paramount to our health moving forward.
Absolutely. Health is going to be the key for this offensive line, for the defensive line as well, and just for the team in general, because one of the concerns that I do have with this Giants team, and it's starting to be highlighted by kind of the revolving doors that we've had at some of these positions already due to injuries, is depth. I like a lot of these starting players, and I like the potential a lot of these guys competing for starting jobs across this team, but behind them, I get extra concerned. At CB2, maybe McLeod does emerge as the starter, but then what if he gets injured? Now it's a slippery slope. That's kind of how I'm feeling about this Giants team. So hopefully these depth pieces, they show a lot. They continue to stay healthy, the starters do, and the depth pieces. And maybe we start to see some progress from this Giants team. Again, a shaky practice yesterday from the offense. Not anything to be overly concerned about from what we heard. A lot of the receivers were open. And Malik Neighbors had a little bit of a rest day. They didn't have him go full workload. They let him take some of the individuals off. They let him take some of the scrimmage plays off. So that's a good thing. I think the Giants understand how important he's going to be to this team. And they are making sure that they rest him properly so that our very highly coveted rookie first-round pick does not get injured. So it was an interesting practice. There was a lot to break down, and that's our reaction to it. Again, the Daniel Jones point, I will repeat it. They don't need to give Drew Lock first-team reps because Daniel Jones has been bad at practice. They need to give Drew Lock first-team reps because Daniel Jones has an injury history. I want to make that abundantly clear so that nobody goes crazy in the comment section. But we are still supporting Daniel Jones, and we hope that he turns it around and bounces back, and we hope to see a really great season from the Giants. And again, like I said, we're about 10 days away from preseason, so get hyped for that. We'll be doing live streams, pregame live streams, postgame shows, and everything else. All those reactions and recap videos, they're coming back. So stay tuned to Fireside Giants, and make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.